Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardiner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate prose. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics, in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. All right, the official word that this meeting is being recorded, which means we are now ready to roll. First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast, brought to you as always by First Star Therapy. Our primary sponsor is Mobility Tape. And a little teaser, there's some announcements coming with Mobility Tape in the near future as well, but I'll leave that for another day and allow that to build. Also brought to you by Epic, that's EPOCH. Check them out at live.epic on Instagram. Benchmark Athletics, that's at Benchmark Athletics. As always, in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. So as mentioned, prior to hitting the record button, this is going to be a little bit of a monologue this evening. So just myself sort of rambling some thoughts this week, as Janet Yee will be on Tuesday afternoon. So that'll be our next official session with a quiz and all of those other good things. But for this evening, talking movement, talking stillness, talking movement in the stillness and the stillness in movement, and really uniting these two things that are quite often held at opposite ends of the spectrum in our space, in the therapeutic space, in the movement space, in the training space, in the sports space, in the human space, to be quite honest. And then we're going to get into a little practice this evening. And so for those that are here live, truly appreciate it. And you're more than welcome to join in and turn your cameras off if and when we get to that point as you wish, or leave them on, even better, if you're comfortable doing so. For those that are picking this up on the podcast, if you're driving in your car, when we say close your eyes, don't do that thing. Leave the eyes open. But if you're at your office and you can take an opportunity to sort of close the eyes and shift a little bit for the practice when we get there, again, a little bit interactive, and I don't foray, is it the word? I don't move into the pre-recorded space very often. So I'm just going to try this and see how it goes. But a little bit of a contemplation piece, I guess. Let's not call it movement. Let's not call it mindfulness. Let's not call it stillness. Let's not call it meditation. Let's just call it what it is. It'll be a brief discussion. I have spent a long time thinking about the value of movement. I haven't spent as much time thinking about the value of stillness. And that's, I think, where recovery and building recovery into athletes' lives, into their training programs, to see that as part of training and to train recovery, as opposed to just, okay, go and do nothing and that's recovery, because I don't believe that that's actually recovery. Because in going and doing nothing, there's a whole lot of rumination that happens, starting to feel how my body feels sore, or find something to busy myself, or not get sleep, or go party, or just sit in absolute nothing and have no direction, which may or may not be good. But when we're talking about stillness, I think there's a ton of value in that. And for the purposes of tonight, it may get a little bit philosophical, it may get a little bit deeper, but I think stillness is the thing that unites humanity. And I think it's an opportunity for all of us to connect with one another, to connect through an individual practice in the human experience that everyone else on this planet is experiencing in their own way. It'll open eyes, it'll perhaps do nothing, but here we are. So movement in the rehab space. Movement in the rehab space is generally a good thing. We understand that movement is a thing that all humans need to do, regardless of ability, regardless of sport, regardless of role, regardless of attachment to identity. Movement is a thing that we need. There is constant movement throughout the body, but movement when it comes to locomotion, or moving a joint when a joint is injured, or movement in response to the program that you're reading off the paper in front of you, all critical pieces and all things that we need to execute. But again, all things that human beings, will strip titles and say all things that human beings will do individually, as opposed to move like this because I saw it once on a YouTube video, or move like this because this is how a squat is supposed to look. The idea very much is that movement has to be individual. It has to be based on the capabilities of the human being that's performing said movement. Are there correctives available to make movement more efficient, more proficient? Absolutely. Do we need therapists and strength coaches and massage therapists and chiropractors and people who are generally geared towards mechanics, biomechanics, and movement and therapeutic spaces? Absolutely. But movement is individual to the individual that is performing the movement. And so some of the misconceptions, I guess, in movement that I was thinking as I navigated through the week, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's not going to be a guest on. Like, what am I going to do? I'm just going to talk to a camera. Hope there's a couple people on live. So thank you again for being here live, and turn off anytime that you need to tune out. But some of the misconceptions about movement is that, one thing that comes up regularly is that movement is bad in a rehab setting. Too much movement is going to be a thing that's going to damage injured tissue, right? And we know that our system responds to input, our systems. We are not one system, but a multitude of systems that are interconnected and overlaid and constantly evolving and devolving and growing and interconnected, I think, is the best word that I can summarize. And so movement in the space of rehab, our tissue needs to respond, regardless of that, if that's post-surgical, or I've just rolled my ankle, or this is chronic neck pain. We have to be able to navigate movement as a beneficial tool, and probably the most beneficial tool, because it's something that we can all house. So then it's navigating what is too much, or what is the right movement, and how much of it, and when to do it, and what does it look like, and all those other pieces, which we won't get into right now. But I think that misconception of movement being something we're not supposed to do. In the rehab space, there are so many practitioners that I have run into, and myself have even caught early on in my career, stating things like, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. You have an MCL injury? Okay, don't do this. Don't do deep flexion. Don't do terminal extension. Don't do pivot twist. And we leave the athlete or the human being on the other side of the table thinking, what am I allowed to do? And if I can't do all of those things, I am no longer the thing that I was prior to that injury. So the idea, I think, in navigating movement and in my current thought space or head space, is that providing an athlete or a human being with, here's your to-do list, your can-do list, and here's this tiny little can't do or don't do list, and leave that to the end. We'll allow the athlete to figure out, right? We need precautions, absolutely. We need the contraindicated components of movement for sure. Okay, you just broke your ankle, don't step on your ankle. That's not a good thing to do. Don't weight bear through a broken bone if it's a weight bearing bone. But here are the things that you can do. Wiggle your toes, move your knee, move your hip, right? Walk on the other leg, bicycle on one leg, whatever the case may be. So I think it's navigating the can-dos and navigating the things that are going to benefit the other individual in the room. So that was one that I kind of thought on, and I was like, what are some of the misconceptions about movement? And that first one really jumped out, and I kind of wanted to just, to be quite honest, just start talking and see where it went. And there's where we went. So it's to do movement as a helpful thing for all injury, right? The body and systems are going to respond. The brain, the nervous system is going to respond to movement, negative, positive, or somewhere in between. It's going to be a response, and any response is change, and change is always good. So as we evolve towards greater performance on the pitch, a greater performance on the ice, on the court, in the pool, like some of our athletes are doing, if we can change and evolve, we're getting to know who we are as human beings through movement, right? So movement is this sort of navigation of our interaction with the universe as a whole. We can dumb that down to a bench press, or build that up to a bench press, however we interpret that. And I don't mean that bench press is a dumbed down movement. I just mean that we can, I guess, silo it down to certain complex or involved movements in the gym or on the ice or in the pool or on the field. And so as we navigate movement, we navigate our relationship with an object, with the ground, with the air, with the universe. And then when we get into competition, we're navigating movement in an environment that is completely unpredictable. We have opponents, we have coaches, we have playbooks, we have weather in certain cases, we have fans or no fans, and we're navigating this whole environment through locomotion, through movement. And so I think it's this language that we speak as practitioners that we can all continuously build on and continuously grow to be better at empathizing with what movement is and being compassionate towards what movement looks like to our eye while we watch another human being move. Because I could step outside and watch somebody run by and say, oh my gosh, look at their gait pattern. That's awful. They shouldn't be running. Their valgus collapsing and they have the wrong shoes on and they're not wearing a color coordinated outfit and they have that hat and those shorts and their shoelace isn't tied. But I don't have the context for that movement. So without talking to that individual, and I use this as an analogy, without talking to that individual, I can't really make those judgments, nor should I be making those judgments. And as a practitioner, the more information I have with said runner on my street outside, the better off I'm going to be able to dialogue with that athlete, with that human being through their movement, because they're going to navigate. I'm running like this because, and they can navigate that movement because they had a broken ankle 14 years ago that never healed, because they don't like wearing matching clothes, because they like the feel of laces undone, because their ankle has to do a whole lot more proprioceptive work. Whatever the case may be, we don't know until we analyze this down to the level of that individual's interpretation of what movement is. And so movement is a whole lot more than a therapeutic modality, but definitely it's a therapeutic modality. Right? So it can be all of these things, it can be all of these things and more, or it can be simply a thing that we watch and do and say, okay, this is the movement you need to do because you just got hurt this way, or because you're a hockey athlete, you need to move this way, so we're going to train in this way. So I think this is kind of the other misconception, is that movement has to be a certain way to fit certain silos of training or certain elements of rehab. And these are the kind of things, I guess, maybe it's a little bit deeper, maybe it's a little philosophical, maybe it's absolutely asinine and makes no sense whatsoever. But here we are in a monologue. I'm just talking away and I'm just really letting thoughts pour out of my face right now. And just thinking on, like, when it comes down to it, what is movement? And then as a practitioner, if I'm watching or evaluating movement, why and how? And for what purpose, and how does that benefit the other person on the other side of the table, the other side of the room, the other side of my eyeballs, right? Because they have this whole intrinsic, intricate set of systems navigating what movement is to them, right? Oh, your knees went in front of you, like the old knees in front of the toes squat debate. There's no context to that debate unless you have context for that debate. So as we spin this further and further and further and further, movement is this thing. And I think every opportunity, I was just on a podcast with my partner at Grid Athletics, Dan Noble. He invited me to come on a podcast with him and talk with a couple strength coaches in Hammer Media, HMMR Media in the US, and great guys, and talking strength and conditioning and individualization. And they wanted to know, James and Dan, what are you guys doing with your athletes? What does your program look like? Dan, like when you open your playbook, what are the things that you stick to in your programming? And I'll have Dan on here and let him dialogue to this again. I had him on previously, and I don't want to mince words or put words in his mouth. But ultimately, what we're doing at Grid Athletics and what we're doing together with human beings and with athletes is allowing athletes to navigate movement in their own individual way so that they can understand who they are as an athlete, who they are as a mover. Because if the other person on the side of the room understands that this is their hip, but when they move their hip, they start to navigate how much compensatory patterning they have in their lumbar region or their thoracic region or their knee or their ankle or their toes. We're giving them insight into who they are, them, empowering them to understand who they are through this magical thing called movement, this language that we speak as therapists, as humans, as teachers, as learners, as experiential beings, right? All the science in the world will never make up for the experience of being alive. The science will tell us certain things, it will prove certain things, but it will also disprove a bunch of things. And some, maybe not most, some science is geared towards disproving things, other science. The one thing that can never be disproved is my experience is my experience. And the same thing goes for movement. So to open the door to opportunity for ownership, for self-advocacy, for resilience, for understanding, for this word on my shirt, this potential. Because this potential is in every human being. And when we understand movement, we understand how to navigate humanity, this universe. We understand it beyond sport, beyond scoring a goal or not scoring a goal in the playoffs, beyond winning a gold medal or not winning a gold medal. We understand how to navigate so much more through this movement. And I think some of the things, the misnomers, the misconceptions, these pieces about movement are deeply rooted in because it's always been done that way. Same thing for training, same thing for rehab, same thing for, right? Do these 3 exercises because you have back pain. Okay, but my back pain is not the general back pain of the other 96% of the population that experiences back pain because it's mine. So if you're just going to throw generic things at me, you're just going to get a generic response. I'll do them. Yeah, it feels better. I'll tell you to your face it feels better. And then I'll go find somebody else who may or may not listen, or who may have that newest modality to throw at me so that it feels better than you made it feel. The idea, again, is to empower with movement, to empower with individualization through the opportunity to connect to the self, right? And I think as we get further and further along, this is the most critical piece. At this moment in time, for me as a practitioner nearing 15 years, the opportunity to connect with other human beings and provide opportunity for them to connect further with themselves opens so many other doors for them to connect with everything else. And again, like that movement piece in the environment, because the more I understand who I am, the more I understand where I am. Take that literally for on the ice in this shift, or take that for like my place in this universe as this tiny little speck of energy that we all are in this other energetic world, right? So I digress. I'll leave it at that. It's a long ramble, but it's thoughts, and hopefully maybe stirring the pot. Maybe somebody will come back at me and say, you're absolutely crazy, or that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I'm welcoming that as well, because I feel like at this point in time, degrees of range of motion, and this is all coming from a foundational understanding in school of what degrees of freedom are, range of motion is, what soft tissue injury is, what kinetic chain linkages are, what fascia does. Like there is a base foundation here. These aren't just remarks that I'm throwing out there to say, look at me and look at these thoughts. These are quite literally, I constantly try to evolve the definition of what movement is in my mind, and in how I employ movement for and with athletes that we get the opportunity to work with. Because when an athlete walks away, when another human being walks away from me, I don't want them to say, wow, what a smart or dumb guy that is. I want them to walk away being like, wow, I feel like more of me because I owned that. I owned that 60-pound deadlift. When before, I wasn't owning any part of that 300-pound deadlift. I wasn't owning any part of it. There was momentum, there was back pain, there was this, there was that. But that 60-pounder, man, crushed it. I feel great, right? I felt my heel engaged. I felt my posterior chain engaged, whatever the case may be. When an athlete walks away from me, from us, we want them to feel more of themselves. Jam done. Jam done. We've done a job if we have less dependence on us as practitioners. So then we shift to stillness, and we think about stillness as this thing where if I sit perfectly still and do nothing, I'm not evolving. I'm not moving towards my goal. I'm not getting to the place that I need to get to. How am I going to win a gold medal? How am I going to win a Stanley Cup? How am I going to score in the next round of the playoffs? How am I going to? What am I going to? How will I ever if I'm sitting still, right? Take that and put it in the business space, the business world, right? Productivity. How can somebody be productive if they're sitting still and doing nothing, right? It's not that they're doing nothing. It's that they're harnessing intent. They're harnessing focus. They're harnessing attention. And by harnessing all of these pieces, though, that will facilitate outward into all areas of life. Single tasking versus multitasking, right? In an environment where I need to multitask all the time, at the end of the day, what have I actually accomplished? Like, look back through your best of days or your worst of days, or those days where you're doing 15 things at a time, and how many of those things got done really, really well. Versus that time that you had, whatever it is, I don't know, in my world, like 10 minutes to sit down and just hunker down with that one thing, and then walk away from that one thing and move on to that next one thing. And like, look back, that 10 minutes was so valuable. It created this foundation, this piece that I can come back to, that I'm proud of because I was there and I was invested in it. And this is stillness. And I want to kind of flip this on its head. I had an opportunity to lead a workshop last week, and I'm thinking about leading another one this week. This week in person outdoors. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But if I do, I'll post that. It'll be in the East End here in Toronto. If you're around, would love to have you there. If I do pull the trigger, I'll post it through Instagram, and I'm pretty sure I will. But last week I had an opportunity to lead a session in movement, and this was the other thing, is like, oh, James is a this and he's a that, and he has all these certifications, and he's going to lead a session in movement. So then I wondered, I was like, well, what about the people on the other side of the screen in this case? What is their perception of what this session is going to be like? They're coming in thinking they're going to sweat, they're going to do push-ups, they're going to do, like, what is their perception of movement when they're coming to a session called movement, right? And we took the time and we sat and we did a movement based on ocular movement, eyes, cervical movement, neck, and then the movement that I really want to play with. And that's the movement in stillness. The movement of the breath into us and out of us. The movement of our heartbeat. Two things that we, as human beings, generally speaking, allow me to make a blanket statement, only because nobody's on the other end of the conversation currently, but the two things that keep us alive are two things that we rarely think about. These are unconscious acts, breathing and our heart beating. But these two things are the movement that unifies humanity. That no matter the color of your skin, no matter your identity, no matter your thoughts on religion or politics or money, these are the things that unite us. We all have to breathe, and all of us have to have a heartbeat. And that's where I want to take this tonight. That's where I want to take this practice. And let's go there together. If you're willing, camera on, camera off for those that are here live. For those that are here picking up the podcast, I guess, when this gets released, like, again, if you're in your car, pull over, but then like pull in a parking lot. Like, don't be on the side of the highway. That's a bad idea. And don't do this while you're driving. Also a bad idea. If you can find the time to find a little bit of space for stillness, hit pause, hit play again when you can do that, or just come back and listen to it a second time. That's great. It drives the viewership up. I don't know. The stats on podcasts are like, how many downloads do you have, man? It's like, I don't know. Does that dictate how many people are listening? I'm not quite sure. So aside. Anyway, let's come back into form. So for those that are here live, I'll welcome you and invite you to find a place to sit, find a place to lie, wherever you're comfortable. And again, I appreciate you being here. And if you're leaving your camera on, that's great. It provides me some feedback as well. If not, again, whatever you're comfortable with is what I'm comfortable with. And for those of you out there listening, find a space, sit, and let's do this together. We'll do the first one with our eyes open. We're going to sit nice and tall. So we want to grow the spine nice and long, allow the top of the skull to move towards the ceiling, and the base of the spine, the other skull, I guess, or partial skull, I don't know if you look at it the right way, seated on a chair. If the feet are in contact with the ground, perfect. If we're sitting cross-legged, perfect. Find the space that's comfortable for you. And we're just going to take 3 big breaths in here. So we're going to inhale and then exhale. Inhale. Exhale. We can go audibly on this third one. You guys are muted, so go audibly unless there's people around. They're going to be like, that's a weird noise coming from downstairs. You guys that are in your cars pulled over now in a parking lot, not on the side of the highway, like do this audibly. And let's make that noise that we all do when we're relieved on the exhale. We inhale. And this time on the exhale, let's go audible. And just allow that audible, that vibration, allow that to be what it is. And then simply find a gaze that's neutral. We're going to start with the eyes here. Find a gaze that's neutral. Check back in with the spine. Nice, tall, seated position. And finding stillness. We're going to move the eyes all the way through from the right to the left. And we're just going to do that to my cadence and fully through that visual field. No neck help, no head help, simply the eyes. So from that neutral position, let's gaze all the way to the right, coming back through neutral and left. We're gazing to the right and coming all the way left, all the way right, and all the way left. One more time to the right. One more time all the way to the left. Come back to neutral and gently close the eyes. Just check in here. And then open the eyes and we'll repeat the top of the visual field and the bottom of the visual field. Again, just the eyes. Use this as saccades, use this as smooth pursuits in your therapeutic practice. We're just going to go through the full visual field, top to bottom. So eyes up and eyes all the way down, all the way up and all the way down, all the way up, eyes moving down, and last time all the way up. And then all the way down, coming back to neutral, closing the eyes and checking in. Last one for the eyes open. We're going to go up and right, down and left. Again, just the eyes moving together. And then we'll switch and do the reverse. But here we go. Let's start up and to the right. And again, just check in with the hesitancy. Does my head want to go? Does the neck want to help? Just using the eyes up and right, down and left, up and right, down and left, up and right, down and left. One more time, up and right, down and left. Coming back to neutral, let's go up to the left and down to the right. So starting up and left, down to the right, up and left, down and right, up and left, down and right. Last one, up and left, down and right. Back to neutral, close the eyes, and take the heels of the hands and begin to rub them together, creating a little bit of friction between the hands. Create some warmth between the hands. And once those hands are warm, keeping the eyes closed, take the heels of the hands and place them over the closed eyes. Allow that warmth to pour into the eyes. Don't have to press, just gently allow that warmth to be felt through the eyes. And then gently releasing the hands, checking in and opening the eyes. We're going to transition to the neck. So here we're just going to look to the right and look to the left. This time, eyes move with the neck, right? So we're going to rotate right and then all the way to the left. Rotate right, rotate left. Smooth all the way to the right and all the way to the left. Checking in with your end range, taking a little bit of discomfort into service here to the right, whether that's stretch or tension, all the way to the left. Come back to neutral. And then we're going to go chin to chest, eyes to the sky, or chin to the sky. So chin down and gently up into extension, looking to the ceiling, just as far as you can go comfortably, back down into flexion, chin to the chest, and all the way up into extension, eyes to the sky. No pain, subtle discomfort or tension, okay? One more time to the chest, and then all the way up, back to neutral, and last one here. We're gonna go ear to shoulder, starting on the right side. Again, smooth and just the neck, no help from the shoulders. Right ear, right shoulder, and all the way through left ear, left shoulder. Snap, crackle, pop. I don't know if those will come through on the microphone. All the way to the right. And then all the way through to the left. Left ear, left shoulder. What do I feel on that right side? All the way through. Right ear, right shoulder. Why does my left side feel that way? Last time, all the way to the left. And back to neutral. From here, we check in one more time. We check in with our vision, we check in with our cervical spine, and we check in with our daily movement. How much of our ocular movement stays within a refined space? We go this far with our visual usage. We never get to the edges, or rarely. What do we do when we need to look right or look left? We micro-trauma our lumbar spine. We micro-trauma our cervical spine. We rotate with our whole body when we want to look left. We neglect the edges. This is potential. Leaving the center of the box and exploring the edges of movement, of range, of our potential as human beings. Perhaps a far reach, but perhaps not. I don't know. Philosophical, asinine, deep, shallow, stupid, smart, whatever it might be, this is where my mind and my place has been in terms of navigating this space of late. Same thing for the neck. How often with our neck are we jutting forward? How often with our neck are we combining motion instead of trying our best to move through a plane of motion to its totality, right? We have these big things that sit on top of our neck, and then we take a device and put it in front of us and make our neck closer to it if we want to look at that really good TikTok video or whatever's going on. And we don't fully invest in the movement that we have available to us. An old saying, witchcraft, whatever it might be, if you don't use it, you lose it. The same goes for movement. As I get older and nudge up against a certain number, I look back and look at how much time I've spent in the same patterns. When I talk to athletes, I look back with them and say, how often are you in that position? Close down anterior hip, lumbar extension, flex thoracic spine, forward head, rounded, whatever you want to look at. Look at human beings. How often do you get out of those positions? Because the key to undoing is undoing. So if you're not getting out of those positions, then we're simply overloading those positions. Watered down, simplified, oversimplified? Yeah, absolutely. But you can't rebut that. If I don't get out of the positions, I don't get out of the positions. I train on the ice, and then I got to go to a gym session. I get off the ice, I go sit in my car to drive to the gym. Same position. Then I go to the gym, and I squat. Same position. What is movement if it's just redundant and overloaded? It's injury. It's ineffective. It is inefficient. Therefore, to make humans, to make us, to make me, I must be better at moving through my total experience, my potential. I have to. Otherwise, I'm going to end up with no ass, and I'm going to fall a whole bunch, and I'm going to have pain in my hip, my back, and I won't be able to move my ankle. Sound familiar? Yeah. A large percentage of our athletes are the same way because of redundancy, because of injury history, because of training load, because they haven't undone the things that they need to do. This isn't about undoing and opening up, or what's the term? Releasing tissue. It's not about that. It's about giving the nervous system the expression, the systems, the intricate nature of human beings, the opportunity to, let's call it, unwind, right? To get out of those redundant positions and find something else. Do you need to train in a neutral spine? Does everybody need to squat? Does everybody need to back squat and deadlift and clean and jerk and press? I don't have those answers. Some do and some don't. Stu McGill, it depends. It all depends. But if we don't know the human being, we don't know the potential. If we know the potential, we then can move. If we can move, we can find movement. So let's go to the stillness. Last one here for the evening. We'll go back into this little experiential piece. I'm going to invite you to close the eyes here for this one. Sit up nice and tall. Place one hand on the belly of the abdomen and one hand on the chest. I invite you to close your eyes and experience stillness together. Stillness to the sound of my voice. Stillness with those that are here live together. Stillness with another listener to this podcast who you've never even met before. Let's do our best. I welcome you to shift your focus to the breath. Unguided, uncoached, occurring, reoccurring, centering, patterned. Follow the breath, this movement of the breath. Where does it start? Where do we feel this breath enter the body? Perhaps through the nostrils, the mouth. Perhaps we can feel the breath through the throat. Perhaps we can feel it into the lungs, down towards the diaphragm, moving down towards the bottom of the rib cage, abdomen area. Perhaps we can feel the breath, the movement during stillness throughout us, invigorating this venous exchange, right? This return, this taking in of oxygen, and then the expression of release or relieving, breathing out, the exhale. Just follow the exhale. Where does that happen? Where do you feel this? When I'm not coaching, when I'm not thinking, when I'm not trying to do that breath work that everybody and their uncle is doing right now on Instagram, when it's just me, what does that exhale feel like? Where does that happen? Follow the in and follow the out. Because it's yours. And it's only yours. Yet it's also mine and every other human that you're going to engage with in your life. And even those that you're not going to engage with. It's ours. It's movement in stillness. It's experience. I invite you to shift focus towards the heart now. whether you can feel it or not through your hand. Begin to shift your focus towards this heart, this organ. This thing that we've mechanized in science to be something that has some valves and opens and closes and does some other things. But just go there and feel what that feels like. What does that heartbeat feel like under your hand? And if you can't feel it physically with your hand, what does it feel like in your mind, this heart, this thing that keeps us alive, this thing that we don't even have to think about? All of these other things we stress about in daily life. Did I bench press enough? Did I score a goal? Did I not score a goal? What are they going to think of me if I don't win a medal? What if for 2 minutes a day we focused on navigating this thing that keeps us alive, this thing that unites every single one of us in this entire universe, this heart, this magical center, this thing that science can explain to a certain degree, but no one can truly fathom. This beat, this muscle, this organ, it's yours. And it's yours alone. But it's also mine. And it's also your neighbor's. It's also your opponent's. It's also that other practitioner's. It's also that other human being you will never meet in your entire time on this planet. It's what unites us. It's the movement in stillness. It's the experience that we all share. I'll invite you to release the hands, gently leave the eyes closed, and just follow 3 more breath cycles in and out, in and out. And on the last one, let's end where we started. Inhale and audibly exhale. Open the eyes and check in. Physically, we're in the same place, but have we moved? We've moved. We've been moved. We've experienced together the movement in stillness. This thing that will constantly bind us together. It's an experience. Let's do more of it. Breathe. Listen to your heart. Be human. I'll leave it at that for the evening. I appreciate you being here live and anybody tuning into the podcast. Share it out. See how far we can take it. It's been a pleasure. We'll go with session 82 Tuesday afternoon with Janet Yee, talking pregnancy, the pregnant athlete, postpartum rehab. Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m. Same Zoom link as always. This one from this evening will drop tomorrow morning. If you enjoyed it, let us know. If you share it with somebody, let us know. But remember, we're all connected. Thank you so much. Let's chat. Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com. CONSULT@firststartherapy.com. On Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host
firststars.let's chat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.